This painting, titled The Luncheon on the Grass by Edouard Manet, was outright rejected by critics in 1863 for the same reason it made Manet an absolute legend in the art world. What was it about this painting that caused such outrage turned admiration? This nude lady. Caca. Emerging from a dark, cozy corner of the woods is a woman casually sitting on a blanket. You know, just your typical day having lunch with friends with nothing on. Her clothes are tossed on the ground behind her, reminding us that she could wear them, but she's choosing not to. Atop the clothing sits a basket that once held the bread and fruits, now scattered on the ground. A harsh light seems to carve the woman's bright figure from her dim surroundings. Her body faces the side, yet her head turns in our direction. Her deep eyes meet ours. Is she amused, surprised, or creeped out? Her left leg is wrapped in a blanket beneath her. Her right leg bends in, propping up her arm that supports her head. Her right toe flexes, potentially grazing the pant leg of the man lounging opposite her. And although they're close in proximity, the nicely dressed man doesn't engage with her. He instead seems lost in conversation with this man. Or maybe not? What is he even looking at? Hello? A scantily clad woman stands in a body of water in the background. She leans over, her left hand lifts her skirt, her right hand reaches into a river. Manet originally titled this painting Le Bain, or The Bath, which might explain what this woman is doing. And although it seems like she's far away, especially when we look at the size of the boat to the right of the painting, Manet has made her disproportionately large, almost like she could reach out and touch the group in the foreground. So we have one barely clothed woman and one nude woman beside two completely clothed men. Well, this is awkward, except strangely, it isn't. Because everyone in this painting seems completely unfazed. This painting was huge. It was unexpected. It was scandalous. And everyone loved to hate it. The Luncheon on the Grass was rejected by the Paris Salon in 1863 and sent to the Salon des Refusés, which translates to Salon of the Rejects. And of the thousands of rejected paintings that year, Manet's was the crowd favorite. People flocked to the Salon des Refusés just to laugh at this painting. It was said that husbands rushed their wives and children past the painting to shield them from the horror. People even threw sticks at it. But what is it about this painting that sparked such outrage? Let me see, where do I start? First of all, the canvas was massive, a size normally reserved for historical paintings. But Manet's piece didn't depict a scene from history or the Bible or mythology. These were real people from the modern world. To create this painting, Manet pulled inspiration from works of old masters like the Pastoral Concert by Titian and Raphael's The Judgment of Paris. The problem was that he changed them so dramatically that it came across like he was mocking them. The Luncheon on the Grass also went against many of the rules of academic art. The content of academic art had to be of high moral caliber. The subjects in the paintings were supposed to look ideal, their skin silky smooth and absent of any texture from the brush. Manet's brushstrokes were large, his blending minimal. He didn't try to hide the fact that this was a painting made of paint, which I guess everyone thought looked really bad. People also hated how the perspective was thrown off by the giant woman in the background. We can tell based on a study of the painting Manet made before the final piece that it was an intentional choice on the artist's part to make the woman look abnormally large in the submitted work. But the greatest offense had to be this nude woman, which might confuse you considering this painting, and this painting were accepted into the Paris Salon the same year the Luncheon on the Grass was rejected. But the difference was these acceptable nudes were allegorical, mythological, or biblical, while this woman looked like an everyday modern woman. Before Manet dropped this bomb of a painting, the saucy appeal of an unclothed woman could be masked by her being untouchable in a way. And that's definitely not the case here. Not only was she a real woman, she wasn't embarrassed. Quite the opposite, actually. Her pose is casual and unapologetic. But it really was the look on her face that tipped this painting into scandal territory, because people were used to paintings of nude women that made faces like this, or this, passive, timid, but never a look that was so direct, never so confident.
Yeah.
In fact, she seemed to look at us, the viewer, like we might be the ones doing something wrong by looking at her. Critic Ernest Alfred Chesneau wrote of this piece, "Two daubers, attired in velvet, chat about aesthetics with a woman dressed only in virtue. Its garish coloring pierces the eye like a steel straw. His figures seem to have been cut out with a punch, and have a hardness that is capable of no soothing compromise. It has all the unpalatability of green fruits that will never ripen." The matter-of-fact nature of this piece led everyone to believe that this woman was an escort hired by these young men who were believed to be students. Because of this broad interpretation, Manet jokingly nicknamed this painting the foursome, because people thought it was, well, you know. Despite his lighthearted appeal to shrug off the haters, Manet wanted so badly to be accepted by the Salon. In his own words, "The attacks of which I have been the object have broken the spring of life in me. People don't realize what it feels like to be constantly insulted." Manet took a contrarian approach to art. He loved to capture the day-to-day activities of the bourgeois, but unlike other artists of his time, he often portrayed his subjects in a way that challenged the societal expectations imposed on them. A mother may be lost in thought rather than behaving caringly toward her daughter. A couple may look indifferent to one another rather than sharing a loving gaze. Manet beautifully captures these moments in between, these flashes in time when people break from their roles, and you catch a glimpse of their authentic selves. He was challenged to present a nude to the Salon and gave them Olympia, with a subject who was a real woman, flaws and all, and was also an escort. And while many middle and upper class men were willing to ask for services from such a woman, they couldn't bear to confront her, looking so unabashedly confident on the floor of an art exhibition. Although this piece was accepted by the Salon a few years after the Luncheon on the Grass was rejected, they were forced to hang the painting high on the wall to prevent vandalism. And maybe you recognize this woman with her red hair and bold stare. This is Victorine Meurent, the same model that posed for Manet's Luncheon on the Grass. In fact, she posed for many of his paintings. She modeled for Manet until the 1870s, when she decided to pursue an art career of her own. But unlike Manet, she embraced the art establishment and abided by the rules of the Salon. In fact, there were some years her work was accepted by the Salon and Manet's wasn't. Victorine was born into a poor family, and many women in her circumstances were forced to sell themselves to survive. This, combined with the fact that she was willing to pose nude for paintings, led many to believe that she was an escort in real life. Her legacy became that she was a drunk who made ends meet by selling her drawings to her companions of the night, and she died young. We now know this portrayal of her was a false one. She worked as an artist until her old age and died when she was 83. In my opinion, Manet was an absolute beast. Not just because he was an amazing artist, but also because he was brave enough to paint the world the way he saw it. And once Parisians got over the initial shock of his paintings, they realized they saw it too. Although Manet had a relatively short art career and died at the age of 51, the impact he had on modern art was immeasurable. And this painting is largely considered the turning point where he challenged centuries of rules made by the Academy and opened the door for artists to paint what they wanted to, how they wanted to. This is why he's widely considered the father of modern art. All of that, and still so many people confuse him with this guy.